Well, if you've got a kid at home that maybe isn't as engaged with reading or maybe even struggles to read a little bit, they might feel a little left out when it comes to story time. And if you want to engage your child in a little bit more reading and all the adventures that a book can hold, you might want to take them to your local library. We've got Jen Noonan joining us with the Lewis Public Library. Thanks for coming in today and sharing about this, because this is actually something that touches my heart, because I wasn't a super engaged reader as a kid, but I have become a much more avid reader as an adult. So tell us about some of the programs that maybe you guys have at the Lewis Public Library, but also that libraries can provide in general for kids to get more engaged in reading.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I, like you, was also not really an engaged reader when I was younger. And I really want to emphasize to families and caregivers that it's really okay if your child doesn't love reading right now. What's really important is that they can read, right? So, you know, not every kid is going to be a voracious reader. Some kids are very busy and very physical, and that's okay. What's important is that they can read, so what we want to do is try to make it fun for them.
Yeah, I love that. I know I loved being read to, whether it was my parents reading to me.
Right, story time at the house, you know, and connect with mom and dad, that whole thing.
You listen to the words and your imagination can kind of do the rest. So what other programs do you have to make reading more fun for those kids?
Well, we do have story time, of course, but what I really like to encourage at home is just to lead by example, you know. Kids will be more interested in reading if you're reading. And it doesn't have to be a big fat book. It could be magazines. It could be the newspaper. Share with them what it is that you're reading and what excites you about, that, what kind of stories you really like, and ask them about the stories they like. We encounter storytelling in so many ways, not just books, but through movies, through podcasts, just a way to show them that you're engaged will help them to get engaged.
I really like that idea too, where you've read something, you have a conversation with the people in your house about it. Not only does it reinforce what you read, but it helps get them involved. Maybe they want to read more about that. It's a really good way to keep the entire thing moving forward.
Yeah. Well, and I also really recommend, finding ways to share reading together. And that's, creating a space that is comfortable and a place that you can share things together. Read aloud together is a wonderful thing, not just for kids that are sitting on laps with picture books, but on into, their older years. I really encourage families to find something that they can read together, whether it's just a chapter before bed or even listening to books. Audiobooks are a great way for families to share books together if they're in the car or busy in the kitchen cooking dinner. Just to create that sort of consumption of stories all around you is a great way to encourage this.
And we were talking a little bit about encouraging young people who maybe aren't voracious readers, but one of the great things for the library is also there are those kids who are voracious readers and want to get a new book all the time. The library is great for mom and dad because it's going to save you some money.
100%. Everybody should get a library card. Absolutely. There's just no reason for you to purchase books. Purchase them if you love them and you want to revisit them all the time and you want to have them close to you, but you don't always know what you're going to love. And so library is a great way to try before you buy. So
that's true.
There's more than 30 libraries in the Delaware library system, and with your public library card, you have access to everything in them. So if your local library doesn't have what you want, they can get it from somewhere else in the state.
And didn't even know that.
And I've often heard, we obviously have books at the library, but it's probably not the only thing that your library card is good for. What are some of the other advantages of going to the library here?
Well, not only are you connected to books when you get to the library, well, we have something for everyone, really. There are book clubs, there are technology classes for kids. We have Lego robotics, we have art classes. There's really something for everyone. The library is no longer just a warehouse of books. It's not just the place to get your reading material. It's the place to meet your community, meet your friends, learn something new, no matter what age you are.
Yeah, I think the best thing about that is it really is one of the last sort of third spaces that maybe you've heard people talk about, where you can exist without paying any money and do all of those amazing things.
Exactly.
Make connection, be a part of the community, learn something along the way. There's a real value to that.
So if people do want to get themselves and their family a library card, what do they have to do?
All you have to do is just walk into your local public library and bring your proof of residency. That's it. Or you can also visit the Delaware Division of Libraries online and sign up for a digital card without even leaving your house.
Nice.
Easy peasy.
A lot of people will like the sound of that. Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming in and sharing not only what the Lewis Public Library has going on, but what a lot of libraries have going on throughout our state, and just ways to get kids engaged in reading. I know that one of my favorite memories too is that my dad read the Harry Potter books to us even into our high school years, and he was like, "Do I still have to do this?" And my sister and I were like, "Yes,
yes, you do.
This is our
Part
tradition."
of the deal.
So maybe grab a chapter book tonight if maybe it's one that you want to read or one that your kids have been asking about. Maybe dive into it together and then chat about it.
And if you're not sure, go ask your local librarian for a recommendation.
go.
They got great tips. They always got great tips.
Yes, they do. Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming in today and sharing with us all that's going on with the library. But in addition to activities, Jen's not going anywhere because she's got some book recommendations that you guys can read as a family when we get back.
Library is always a great place to get books, but sometimes you don't always know exactly what you're looking for. That's where a great recommendation can make all the difference. And we are back here with Jen Noonan from the Lewis Public Library. And Jen, you've got some recommendations for us today.
I do. You know, we were talking about, reading together as a family. And there are some wonderful new books out. Kate DiCamillo has some sort of new fairy tales that I really recommend for family read-alouds. The first one is called The Puppets of Spellhorst. And
Sounds delightful already.
it is full of whimsy and heart. The second one is called The Hotel Balzar, and there's a third one coming out in May. These are, not too long, maybe 100 pages. They're chapter books, but they are very easily consumable. And like I said, full of heart and whimsy and fun for everyone in the family to listen to.
Yeah, I know that for us and my family, the fantasy genre or that sort of fairy tale genre was really, really fun to read aloud. And we've made so many memories. And then when the movies come out, you get excited as a family. So it continues that conversation like we were talking about before the break, that you can kind of dissect the content as a family.
And it brings people together, which is the whole point here.
Exactly. Another series that I recommend that does have a movie element involved is Catherine Applegate's The One and Only Ivan. There are several books in that series, and they have made a movie, so that is something that you can enjoy together and talk more about. There's several different ways to engage in that storytelling. And if you love fantasy, and you loved those Harry Potter books, or I definitely recommend the Skandar series by A.E. Stedman. So I describe this series as Harry Potter plus Percy Jackson, which a lot of people know the Rick Riordan books.
Another one that's really popular.
Times unicorns, but not the kind of unicorns that like poop rainbows and cupcakes. These are the monstrous, bloodthirsty kind.
Yes.
So if you love that sort of like fantastic, mythical, beast kind of story, the Skandar series is definitely for you. There are 4 books in that series, so you can get into it and keep going.
Some great stuff already. That's fantastic to hear.
What would you say that age group maybe is what those books are recommended for when it comes to reading as a family?
Well, I mean, you can read as a family at any age. Like I said, the Kate DiCamillo series is kind of easily consumable for all ages.
Sure.
Something that's more fantasy driven could be a little scary for younger kids, but maybe not. You never know. They'll let you know. Middle grade lands sort of between 8 and 12 years old, but there's great read alouds for every age. The younger ages can go with Mo Willems classics with Elephant and Piggy, or his Unlimited Squirrels series. There's something for everyone. But really, if you've got a question, ask your local public librarian. They will have recommendations for you.
And I take it that these are all books that are at the library?
Absolutely, 100%.
Fantastic. I remember that when I was a babysitter, Diary of the Wimpy Kid was really popular. We read that a lot together. So
still very popular.
I bet.
If you're looking for that kind of like silly humor, Aaron Blabey has stopped writing the bad guys, but he's got Cat on the Run. So that's something that I recommend for kids who are enjoying that. Listen, let the kids read what they want. Let them engage in the stories that they want. Some of it's like silly and it's not going to appeal to you as an adult, but I promise you it's just a stage. They're not going to be reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid when they get in college. I promise. Or maybe they will, and if they do, who cares?
Right.
All that matters is that they're reading, they're making those connections, they're building their brain space a little bit with creativity and words. And I think that it is great no matter what the book happens to be.
Exactly. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Do you have any other recommendations that you think families who are maybe kind of just dipping their toe into this family read aloud space, do you have anything else for them?
Well, I definitely recommend that it can seem a little overwhelming to read aloud, you know, if it's every single night, or sometimes your kids want more and more. And it takes some energy to read at the end of the day. So I say get into the audiobook.